Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Wednesday, the 10th of May. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined this morning for the first time this week by Jonny McFarlane. How are we doing, Jonny?
Very good, Derek. Very pleased to be on. Bright and fresh as a daisy this morning for a change. So looking forward to getting stuck in to all the Rangers news.
Yeah, there is a few bits to talk about. Just before we do that, folks, if you want to subscribe to the website, head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe. Only £2.99 per month. And if you want to subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is growing rapidly, I've got to say, nearing 12,500 subscribers. So thanks to each and every one of you, then just hit that subscribe button on the channel, hit the notification bell. You'll never miss a video when we go live. Right, let's talk Rangers, Jonny. Bit of news that emerged late last night regarding Antonio Colak. Scottish Sun reporting that Rangers open to transfer offers for the 29-year-old. Of course, he's not played much, it's fair to say, since Michael Beale returned to the club. He is the club's joint top goal scorer this season after a great start to the campaign, netting 7 goals in his first 9 games. He scored 17 from 38 appearances this season. He has been plagued by injuries of late. Of course, he changed his agent a couple of weeks ago now as well, which had a few people speculating he could be heading for pastures new. And now it's reportedly believed that Rangers are interested about listening to offers to offload him in the summer. Antonio Colak, Jonny, can you see him leaving, first of all? And I think I've asked you before, but would you be inclined to keep him around?
So I can totally understand why Michael Beale would want to cash in on Antonio Colak at this stage. I do think he is a player capable of adding something to the Rangers squad. He's a natural goal scorer, a very, very good finisher. The problem is the way he plays isn't really a close fit with what Michael Beale, I think, is looking for from a striker. The new Rangers manager, well, he's not new anymore, but new this season, wants to play in a certain way, and it involves the striker dropping deep, getting involved in play, and also having the ability to, I think, go in behind. And whoever arrives in the summer, I've got my suspicions about who it might be, but whoever arrives, I think, will be a player who can both link up and go behind. You need someone who can do both nowadays. Alfredo Morelos, at his height, was able to do that, and that's why he was such a multi-purpose, multifunctional striker who caused so many problems. This current iteration of Alfredo Morelos Mark II, can't do that because he's lost a yard of pace and he's not in the physical condition, I don't think, to be that guy anymore. But Colak has never been that. You know, Colak is a fox in the box. Colak is a guy who you feed and he will score. I don't think that's going to be what he's going to get. I still like Colak as a signing for Giovanni Van Bronckhorst Rangers. If you have a Morelos at the top of his game and Colak's there as a guy you can throw on or play in games when you're giving Morelos a wee rest, totally fine with that. But the style of play's changed. It's much less direct. And I just feel that it's best for everyone that Colak departs in the summer and frees up wages and also brings in a small but not insubstantial transfer fee. I would fully expect Colak to bring in roughly what Rangers paid for him, so about £1.5 million to £2 million. As you know, if you look at his record, Croatian football, very good. I think in Scandinavia was very good. Didn't really work that well in Greece, but there's a lot of players that I think struggle with Greece football. It's quite idiosyncratic. So you look at his record for Rangers, I don't think it's too bad at all. 24 appearances, 13 goals. I think it's wise. If he doesn't fit the system, you swap him out for someone who does. Clearly, and Aldo 21574 is absolutely right. Rangers do need substantial amount of strikers to come in. Kemar Roof is obviously still there. I don't think he's going anywhere because who's going to buy Kemar Roof? Rangers are not going to offer to pay him up his contract because you might as well hold on to him and hope you get something out of him than paying him off. I think Roof, if he can stay fit, will be a big part next season. People don't realise But I also understand people watching this will be like throwing their laptop through the window saying, Roof, how can you say that because Roof's never fit? What I would say about Kmart Roof, I'm speculating here, but it's speculation with a little hint of talking to people. I think Kmart Roof is one of these guys that I think his physical condition is improved by how he feels about the manager. And he's had his ups and downs with injury. There's no doubt about that. He's been away to sort out all his little niggles. And I think if Kmart Roof comes back and feels in his own head that he's back to where he should be, he's got a manager that loves him and he loves, I think he could produce a little bit more than people are expecting. Put it that way.
Well, he can't produce anything less, I think, than what he's doing at the moment. He's been.
Well, I think that's a fair point. Yes.
Just when you're striking inclination in the summer, Johnny, it's created a bit of a stushy, bit of a debate in the comments. Kenny says, "Spill the beans, Johnny," and Johnny Alcatraz says, "Tell us who, Johnny, that they're wanting to know who your inclinations
I left it deliberately ambiguous, folks, because I'm not 100% sure in it. When I'm 100% sure, it'll go on the website. But there's a number of names that have been linked that are out there, and I think one of them is right. But I've not got it backed up where it needs to be. But I think whoever Rangers are linked with, it'll have to be someone that can both link up the play and have the pace to go in behind.
Yeah.
So,
some comments on Colak. That's from Denzel. I agree with him. He's on the right lines with what my thinking is about Colak. Must confess to being wearied with how we've dealt with Colak, a player who can score against the lesser lights of the league with ease. We need a goal scorer. Rangers, they need someone, a Chris Boyd-esque, that's just going to score against teams that set up in a blow block at Ibrox. We all know the teams that come to Ibrox and just set their stall out to play for a draw, more or less, and stifle Rangers. And Colak does score against these sides, Johnny. That's the thing for me. He does a job, but I'd imagine, I'm not entirely sure Antonio Colak at 29 years of age will want to be playing a bit part in the Rangers side. I'm sure he'll want to be the main man. I think that's when he was thriving at the start of the season. I'm not entirely sure he'll want to stick around if he's just going to play here and there.
Yeah, I can see that. Listen, he's changed agents, and Derek, you rarely change agents without looking for a move in the long term, or in the short term even, sorry, should I say. He's an established player. He's 29 years old. Is he going to want to hang about on the bench? I think he knows as well. One thing about Antonio Colak, he's a smart guy. He's sharp, and I don't think he'll want to hang about in a team where he's not going to play. Yeah, he's been well travelled, Derek. He's gone all over Europe, so I think he'll fancy another destination. And you've got to remember as well. Listen, we talk about these guys who are kind of journeymen. And we forget they're the smartest footballers out there because they're getting paid a signing-on fee every time.
Yeah, they love a signing-on fee, don't they?
So it's you look at somebody's career and you go, "Oh, he's never really settled." Believe me, his bank account's settled because every time he moves, he's getting 400, 500 grand or whatever it is, whatever they've agreed to make the transfer. And that's not a bad gig if you can get it. One thing I would say about Antonio Colak from speaking to people within the club, Derek, and this has been from the get-go, his professionalism is second to none. There's a guy who's in absolute physical condition, and he's a serious professional. I don't think he's been a moment of harm or a moment of trouble for anyone at the club. So I think if he does leave, he'll go with the best wishes. I've always liked the idea of Rangers having a fox in the box, Derek. I remember going back to when I was a kid. You had the likes of Ali McCoist. There was always a goal scorer in and around Rangers team. After McCoist, you had Rod Wallace, Billy Dodds, those kind of guys who, while not at the same level as Alan McCoist, obviously I'm not comparing them, but I'm just talking about the type of player they are. Guys who could sniff out a chance and finish it, because Rangers create a lot of chances. Yeah, I just think the way Michael Beale wants to play isn't a great fit for the big man. So I just think he's not going to get the game time he's going to want, mate. And I just don't think he's going to set the header alight being asked to kind of link up the play. I don't see it.
Yeah. Let's get to a few of the comments that are coming in. Gallant Pioneer says we should be listening for offers for Sakala too. Imagine if an offer comes in for Fashion Sakala that's attractive, then the club will be listening to it. I don't think there's any player. You wrote a piece last week, Johnny, I think, where I think there's 4 players that you can pretty much guarantee will be here next season in Tavernier, Goldson, Cantwell and Raskin, but the others, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, no. I think there's more players than that are going to be here next season. Like John Suter, for example, is not going anywhere.
Yeah.
What I meant with that piece was they're the 4 ones that you build the first team around week in, week out, and the rest they have to actually make a claim for it, a proper claim. But those are the 4 that are definites.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting, just on focal points, Maka says, if we need a focal point up front, it has to be Zlatan, Derek. Of course, I think he's looking for a new club in the summer, 41 years of age, but he's a player that's in fantastic physical shape at the moment, Johnny. I'd love to see him at Ibrox, but listen, I think that's pie in the sky stuff.
Derek, that means it's happening.
Somebody will clip that up, no doubt, if Big Zlatan heads into Glasgow Airport. Other bit of information came actually from Michael Beale's press conference prior to the game at the weekend, where he said that 1 or 2 players that are out of contract in the summer will have been offered new deals, and it's led to speculation as to who those could be. It's believed that Ryan Jack is one of those players about to sign an extension, according to reports this morning. Another player that's been injured for a great chunk of time, Johnny. There's lots of comments coming in here. Well, Billy McCulloch says, looking like Ryan Jack will be staying, like Ruth would keep if we can get a ton out of him. The key word there being if. I've seen a lot of debate on social media. Fans maybe split down the middle with regards to Ryan Jack. We know what he can bring when he's fit and he's on the park. However, that's few and far between. Ryan Jack, for you, keeping him around, is that something you're on board with?
Well, I'm going to do something dangerous and disagree with Aldo McNaught, who's making comments that we can't put up on screen in the comments there. No, I think Ryan Jack, despite his injuries, is worth keeping around. You just have to have the mentality that Ryan Jack's only going to play a certain number, because he can't play week in, week out. We know that. It's not wise for him given his issues. But if you're talking about a player that can deliver at a high level, Ryan Jack is clearly excellent when he's right. Is he right enough? Listen, Derek, you cannot throw out everyone. You cannot get rid of everyone. And Ryan Jack was around for 55. He was absolutely integral to the team that got to the Europa League final. He scored the winner in a Scottish Cup, or certainly one of the 2 goals that won the Scottish Cup. The guy's a big game player. I would always have him as part of the Rangers team for next season. Yes, there are issues there, but let's be honest, if Ryan Jack was fit, firing and playing every week, he'd be in the English Premier League probably at this point. I'm not saying he'd be playing for Manchester United or Manchester City, but I think he's got enough about him. He's absolutely brilliant when it comes to retaining the ball. His defensive and tactical discipline is second to none in Scotland. He is tenacious and hardworking and a great team player. So for me, Ryan Jack is someone that you just want around the place. As for Scott Arfield, I can see why the club would see that as a smart move. If you look at his pure numbers, I think he's got 9 goals with hardly not an awful lot of minutes this season, Derek. Yeah. He's a danger. And again, he's another guy that you would want in and around the building. But I think that one might be less popular.
I would keep Scott Arfield, I've got to say. I'd be well up for keeping him around the place on and off the pitch. I think he's big. And yeah, he is producing the numbers still, Johnny, despite not playing it as much. I think those 2 are obviously the most likely ones to sign new deals. There was a comment there saying Ryan Jack needs to think about his Scotland career if he signs this new deal. I think that is certainly something that he does have to consider, the amount of games that he's playing. I know he loves playing for Scotland, but if it's going be detrimental to his Rangers career, then it's certainly something he has to sit down and think about at his stage of his career.
I can see that point of view. He's still not that old, Ryan Jack. That's the other thing. What is he, 30?
31?
30, so I can see why you probably might look at that and think, I'll be fine for Scotland. But I can understand looking at it from a Rangers point of view. Derek, I just want to cast our minds back to the sort of 9 in a row era just for a second and think about those foreign stars that are so lauded to this day. People like Arthur Newman, people like Lorenzo Amoruso, even guys from down south like Paul Gascoigne, of course, Brian Laudrup. What they always say is that when they arrived, they were told in no uncertain terms what playing for Rangers is all about, what the demands are, what the fans are like, what the city's like, where to avoid, where to go, how to live your life. All these things were integral to their success, and they came from those guys that were Scottish, that were in the dressing room, that knew the club inside out. If you don't have that, I think it's very difficult. Now, you've got Connor Goldson and James Tavernier who are there to be able to give their experience over years, and they're probably as big Rangers men now as anyone. They've been steeped in it for so long, especially James Tavernier. But I do think having that Scottish connection is important at the club. That's sort of that Rangers DNA almost, if you will. So that for me is another big reason why you would keep one of these guys, potentially two of them, just to keep that sense of Scottish identity around the place, and ensure that these new players that are coming in understand what they're getting into and have a sounding board to go to when the going inevitably gets tough. Because you know at Rangers, at some point, there's going to be adversity. That goes without saying. Now, that's not to say major changes don't need to happen. They do, but Rangers do need a big squad. They do need depth. So I would just implore people, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. Remember the lessons of Rangers history. Can I tell you one other lesson of Rangers history that I'm quite passionate about, Derek, that I feel like has kind of been brought up in the comments?
Go for it.
I'd love to see Michael Beale focus a little bit more in terms of his recruitment on Scottish talent. Now, I obviously want to see the best foreign players Rangers can afford coming in. But, you know, you look at the most successful manager of my lifetime at Rangers is Walter Smith. And in both times at the club, he built a backbone of Scottish talent in the team and then used other players from other leagues as the kind of confetti around it to give you the kind of stardust element that's required when you're trying to break down teams. Yeah. I think there's been a real missed opportunity in the Ross Wilson era around Scottish players. I know I've gone on about it before, but I'll go on about it until the cows come home. Lewis Ferguson is a disaster that you've allowed him to leave. It's getting worse by the minute. You know, he's going to end up at Juventus, Derek. I've got friends in Italy, and apparently this interest is serious. Aaron Hickey is now in the Premier League and performing at a really, really good level. He could have been picked up for £1.52 million. Could Rangers be doing with a good left fullback that can play also at right back? I think they could. You know, players have been allowed to leave. Josh Doig is another one. Players have been allowed to leave who were clearly talented. And I think there's players at the moment. The one that I like a lot is Kevin Nisbet. I don't understand why the club are not all over that. He's got 1 year left on his deal at Hibs. He's physically right for the Scottish Premiership. He's a goal scorer. He's a finisher. He looks to me like a player who has levels to go up. He scores goals for fun in this league and has done over many years. People are talking about Kevin Van Veen, and he is looking really, really good at Motherwell, but that's one season, and he's had a journeyman career. Now, it might have all come together for Van Veen, and I might be totally wrong. But what I do know about Kevin Nisbet is that if he's mentally right and he's sharp, he's on it, he's top drawer for the Scottish Premiership. And I'm not saying you bring in Kevin Nisbet and he becomes the number one striker for Rangers. I think there's likely to be another striker that will come in that will be the number one striker. But you need more than one striker, and you need people who can rack up goals. And I think at the fee we're talking about, it's an absolute no-brainer. So I don't get it. There must be someone at Rangers that doesn't rate Kevin Nisbet, which is odd because I know the club certainly were aware of him when Steven Gerrard was the manager. I just think it's an absolute no. But what do you think?
Yeah, it's good in theory, but there's comments coming in saying, well, Rangers will have to pay over the odds for these boys. I don't think Scottish clubs will be selling their talent on the cheap to Rangers. So there's that to factor in. And then it's who is good enough to play for Rangers as well. I get your point about Lewis Ferguson. I think that is a missed opportunity. I think Rangers should have brought him in when the opportunity arose. The other ones, Lewis Shankland is one of Lawrence Shankland. Sorry, is one that's always in and around.
Lewis Shankland would be cheaper, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. Is lookalike, but he's one I would have no qualms about seeing at Ibrox. I think they'll do a job against the teams that you come up against domestically, and let's be honest, Rangers need players like that of that ilk to get back on top in Scottish football. So it's just identifying those players that will be good enough to play for Rangers. Really, at this moment in time, I think Nisbet and Shankland are the two ones that stand out. I think.
Listen, there's a bit of snobbery around about Scottish players, and I totally get it because the demands of playing for an Aberdeen or a St Mirren or whatever, it's totally different. I mean, Kevin Thompson's talked about this coming from Hibs. The expectation was at Hibs, you could have one game in 3 that was good and the fans would still think you were terrific. If you have one good game in 3 at Rangers, you're going to be out on your backside. There's no doubt about it. It's the same at both halves of the Old Firm. There's a demand for quality performance that you need to meet that isn't the same at smaller clubs. So I get why you look at a player and you go, you'd need to take a step up. And of course they would, but there was people who looked at a lot of Walter signings, and I would imagine at the time thought, Davy Robertson, is he good enough for Rangers? Kevin Thompson, is he good enough for Rangers? You don't know until you sign them. I think the important thing to remember is that good players get better when they are surrounded by better players. So listen, I'm not saying there's a plethora of stars in the Scottish Premiership Rangers should go out and snap up. But there needs to be a cognizance, and I'm sure there is in the building. I'm sure there is, of going out and snapping up players who fit the criteria to hit the quotas, because there are quotas. People are talking about in the comments there about, well, how many Scottish players have Celtic got? That's going to be a problem for them next season. Will some of their fringe Scottish players want to hang around and not play? The likes of David Turnbull, James Forrest.
They spent a lot of money on.
These are guys that will want to get game time, quite rightly, because they're good players. But what does Celtic do if they leave? You have to go and get Scottish players because you have to have a certain amount. By the way, I totally agree. David Robertson was a fantastic player. Maybe he was. Maybe people at the time were saying he was good enough. But you take my point.
Yeah, for me, best left back I've seen at Rangers, and include Arthur Newman in that.
No chance. No chance.
For me, I'm having Davy Robertson
Newman was different level. Sorry, I'm not having it.
Let us know.
You think he was better than Newman?
For me, he edges it for me. I'm happy to see what the viewpoints are of the listeners and then the viewers this morning. But for me, Robertson over Newman, both fantastic players, of course. But I'm picking David Robertson every day of the week. Just on your 9 in a row sort of comparison there, Johnny. Kev Armstrong with an interesting point just on Jack. He says, use Jack like Walter used Durant at the back end of 9 in a row. Big games only. It's easier said than done, I'd imagine, but I get Kev's point. This is an interesting one I wanted to get your viewpoint on. I touched on it. Barry Goldford all day. Nico Raskin coming out last week saying that it's his dream to play for Chelsea. It's caused a bit of a stooshy, Johnny. Sky Willie says, what's your thoughts on Raskin's dream ambition to play for Chelsea or in the Premier League? I said I'm not. I can understand why fans get a bit hit up about it. For me, as long as he's doing the business for Rangers, I understand he's a young lad from Belgium. He's got the ambition of playing in the biggest league and the best league on the planet. So I understand that. I'm not too worried about it, but he has to deliver on the pitch for Rangers or else these sort of things will be dragged up.
Yeah, well, I absolutely hope that Nico Raskin gets his wish, because what it means is that Rangers will pocket an absolutely enormous transfer fee. Because if he's good enough to go to a top 6 club in the EPL, which, by the way, you'll have to go some to get to that level, I think that would be a very accelerated development we'd be looking at. As talented as the lad is, then I think that would be great for Rangers. Listen, I read this, and so here's the first thing. Like, I know how the sausage is made in journalism. He used a word that he definitely didn't use. You know, I can look at those quotes and know I know he didn't use that word. And I can't remember what word it was, but it was. If you get the quotes up, Derek, I'll tell you and read it out while I'm talking. You'll get the.
I'll do that right now.
It's a word that you would never use, I don't think, if you're a foreign player in Scotland. So it'll be an interview that he's given to a Belgian newspaper that's been translated by Google Translate, and it'll be an approximation of what he said. This won't be someone who speaks his mother tongue who has been paid to go and translate it perfectly. And I think you've got to be careful about these type of interviews. That's the first thing, and that's from someone inside.
Yeah, he says, my ultimate dream is to play in the Premier League with Chelsea. Playing in Scotland struck me as a good intermediate step.
Yes, an intermediate step. That sounds like something a 21-year-old from Belgium would say in English. Absolutely. But listen, I'm sure it's I'm not saying that he didn't say it, but you've got to remember the context. He's a young guy, and he's talking about maybe his whole career. He's maybe been asked, like, how do you see your career plan going? He says, well, I'm going to go to Rangers, have a few years at Rangers. Hopefully, if things go well, I'll get a move to the English Premier League. That's what Rangers want too. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So I think we just need to be cognizant of where we are. It's not the 1990s anymore. Yeah. Scottish football is what it is, and players will see the league and the club, regardless of how big a club it is, as a stepping stone. And listen, will Raskin go to a bigger club than Rangers? Probably not, but he might well go to a bigger league, and that's about the economics of where we are. It's not the 1990s anymore. Yeah, it's just the way it is. And I get he shouldn't have said it, but I doubt he said it in the way that it's being used. Yeah, totally get that. Just on his form, John McGuire says, Johnny, Raskin is off the boil. What do you make of that? Is getting a bit of stick at the moment, I see, from some quarters. Is he 100% fit, do you reckon? No, I don't think he is. I think he needs a first team pre-season is what he needs. You've got to remember with Nico Raskin is he's kind of running on empty a little bit, because he's come in, everyone's at that top level of fitness. Because they actually work out fitness as a graft. So you're sort of like, at the start, you're going quite high, and then the fitness tails off a little bit, and then you peak at the end. And, they've got all these sort of graphics that work out how and where your peaks will come over the course of the season. This is what the sports science guys do. And Yanis Hadji was talking about how difficult it is to get in the team, because these guys are absolutely at the apex of where they need to be. Yeah. It's been designed to be that way, and he's obviously not had that kind of aerobic fitness that you need to compete week to week. Now Raskin's had that, but he hasn't had the foundation backbone to kind of get him to where he needs to be. And that seems obvious, because he peters out after 60 odd minutes in games. Yeah, he needs a pre-season. So I would expect him to improve next year. And listen, Derek, with Raskin, and I think this is important to say, the talent is not in doubt. And see, when the talent is not in doubt, you just need to get the application right. I don't have any doubts that Michael Beale will get the application right. So it's not a transfer I'm worried about. Yeah, we'll finish up with this. Tim Sharp gets in touch. He says, enjoy Johnny on the podcast. I disagree with everything he says. So there you go. I like my wife, mate. Absolutely superb. Right, that'll do us there. Big thanks to Johnny and to everyone for interacting with the show. It's greatly appreciated. We'll be back again tomorrow as we look ahead to that game on Saturday. But until then, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. And good luck to the young Bears tonight, taking on Celtic in the Glasgow Cup final as well. So good luck to David McCallum and all the young lads as well from everyone at the Rangers Review. Joshua will be there. Yeah, Joshua will be there for us. So keep your eyes peeled for all the coverage from Ibrox later on tonight, folks. But we'll be back again tomorrow. But until then, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Bye for now.